Hey, I know you've heard me talk about Covenant Eyes many times. It's our internet filtering and accountability software that we use on every one of our devices, computer, phone, iPads, my family, my staff. And we are happy to tell you that we are now an affiliate. We're partnering with Covenant Eyes, and we'd like to encourage you to check it out. Go to covenanteyes.com. Promo code you want to use is DNB, David and Bethley, DNB Young. And put that in and check it out, and then let us know what you think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Young podcast, conversations about marriage, family, and ministry life. I'm Dave.
And I'm Bethley.
And we are the Youngs. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we're kind of coming to a conclusion over this last few weeks as we've been talking about
the series on
kids,
dating, and marriage.
Kids, dating, and marriage.
Because I came up with that wonderful title.
Yeah, because she thought mine was too long. So we went with hers and shortened it down, and it was a better title, so I'm acquiescing here.
I'm not gloating.
But just a little bit she is. But that's okay. And we've so much enjoyed chatting with you, and we've had several of you folks correspond with us.
Yes.
I answered an email yesterday about this very topic, and we've had several folks ask us other questions about it.
Right, and good feedback, too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It was an encouragement that their family was on the right track, and that's a good thing.
And somebody said, we're glad we're not alone.
Yes.
And all of those things.
In the weird dating
Absolutely.
standards.
And it's such a difficult cultural situation today because there's so many things that are culturally not the best in helping us to get our children through the dating and marriage cycles of life.
Right.
And so we wanted this to be a help and blessing to you. We do want to remind you that we are partners. We are affiliates with Covenant Eyes. And if you have not yet listened to the Covenant Eyes podcast we did about 3 or 4 weeks ago, then I sure urge you to do so. And you can actually visit covenanteyes.com and sign up for a free trial of Covenant Eyes using our promo code DNB, David and Bethley, DNB Young. And if you put that promo code in, then they will also let us know that you signed up because of us.
And that would be a wonderful blessing.
That would be a blessing to us, and we would love to know that your family's using that. So take advantage of the covenanteyes.com offer, and let us know how that works out for you. We'd love to hear about that, too.
Yes.
But here's, we got a special treat for you today. We're going to do something we've never done on the podcast before.
Dun, 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 dun.
And, what we are doing, we're in a meeting right now in Odenville, Alabama. It's one of the revival meetings that we do every year, and so it's the only meeting we do that's yearly.
Right.
And at least as long as the church invites us, we're coming every year.
Yes, we would come for the food,
we
come for the meeting.
The food
too.
is amazing, and the food is amazing. And this church is increasingly special to us because we have our son Matt and his new bride Kareth, who are on church staff. And so we've been talking about kids and dating and marriage, and here's what just dawned on us while we were here at the church. We thought, oh my goodness, Matt and Kareth have been married just a short time, and we just helped them get to this place. And so why don't we just have a little conversation?
Let's have Matt and Kareth.
Inviting just the whole family in here. And so Matt and Kareth, welcome to Keeping It Young podcast.
Welcome.
Well, hello. Hello, Dad.
And Matt
so good to see you.
Matt's the youth pastor here at the church. He's actually a youth pastoral intern at this point as their youth pastors transitioning into evangelism. And how long have you guys been married, just for our audience, at least as at this point? This will air a couple of weeks after we record this, but how long have you guys been married?
Right.
A month and 2 days.
Oh, my goodness.
Best month and 2 days of my life.
Aww.
That's pretty good right there.
Wonderful.
Best month and 2 days of my life. Wow.
I was trying to get brownie points because
It's working,
he was
too.
being rude to me.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Well, we have a podcast for that.
I'm just kidding.
Obviously, they are needing our podcast. So this is a good deal right here. So let's just, what we talked about over the last couple of weeks, just to bring you guys up to speed, Matt and Kareth, is we talked to our audience about really the questions that kept coming in as well. What did we do to help you guys navigate the dating game of our generation? And what did we do to help you to navigate finding a spouse and getting married? And, of course, Matt belongs to us, and Kareth belongs to our good friends Shannon and Teresa Monday. And they would have done things a little different. And what we like about doing this in the program is that although there are some things that are across-the-board givens, the way you accomplish it can vary from family to family with the same result.
Absolutely. There are purity matters in the Bible that are commands.
Sure.
And everyone should live up to those if you are a Christian. but there are different ways of going about finding a spouse.
Yeah, and the different applications of different families can vary greatly.
Yes.
So what we talked about was three things. We've talked to the audience about the fact that our plan in our family was we don't date, we wait for marriage. And meaning there's a time when you're old enough to start that process. If you know what, I'm old enough, I'm mature enough, I'm wise enough to begin the process of trying to find a spouse. So don't date, wait. We talked about what we did during the waiting season, that it wasn't like don't talk to guys and girls. It was not like, stay away from girls or stay away from guys if you're a girl. It was a time of preparing you guys and setting the stage so that you could have the best success when marriage came.
Yes.
So we devoted quite a bit of time to that one. The second thing we talked about was don't date alone, take a chaperone. And we don't mean by that something weird there. It's not like, you can never, ever have a private conversation. We just,
Right.
the emphasis for us in that phrase was public. Stay public, not private. Now you're married, and because you're married, it's entirely fine to be private.
Yes.
But when you're not married, it's best not to be private. All right. And then the third thing we talked about was don't act wed
Till the I do's are
till
said.
I do's are said. And meaning there are things reserved for marriage, so protect them for marriage. So let's.
And that wasn't a weird thing either.
No,
No,
we
it wasn't that there were no shows of affection between you two. It was just that there are some things that should be reserved for
and
marriage.
we believe even shows of affection should be public, and that way there's no privacy, there's no potential failure there. So we talked about that last week. So if you have not yet heard the podcast from last week, you want to
Go
tie
back,
it in.
yes.
Go back and listen to it. So let's start with a few questions. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, good deal. So, Kareth, let's start with you. Now, Matt was our responsibility, but your mom and dad would have undoubtedly have done some things differently. Maybe they were more strict in some areas, less strict in other areas, and or maybe we were more strict in all of the areas. But what would you, just off the top of your head, was there anything that sticks out in your mind that you said, my parents did this to help us navigate the dating game, and it really helped me to prepare for my relationship with Matt to get to the marriage altar? Anything stick out in your mind?
Well, just the way that they put an emphasis on how I acted and how I dressed and presented myself around boys in our church and stuff. They put modesty standards in my life, but they also focused a lot on my attitude and how I talked to them, how I walked and everything. And it was more than, you need to wear loose pants and a high enough shirt. It was, you can be really immodest in a skirt and a shirt and just by the way you walk. And so they put an emphasis on modesty in all areas, and that was
kind of from the inside out,
Yeah.
I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, and they wanted, my mom always said, smile and be sweet. And that was really hard for me a lot of the times. But, I needed to be sweet with my words, and I needed to be careful with my words, and especially when it came to the boys in our church and boys in my life and everything. I just had to be sweet with them, and not in the promiscuous sense, not.
So your mom and dad were trying to set you, we're trying to train you on how to respond to your future husband by teaching you how to respond to the guys in your youth group and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Good.
they used my brothers. My dad had a couple of talks with me about modesty, because there for a while it wasn't making any sense. And me and my mom kind of we butted heads a lot. And so he would just sit me down. He goes, you would want a girl to protect your brothers.
Right.
You would want a girl to dress appropriately around your brothers. So you need to dress appropriately for somebody else's big brothers. And to just be aware of why we do what we do. It's not just because,
Sure.
just institutional standard or
Right.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
in light of that, I know that as we had gotten to know your family and even as you guys were engaged, I know that Matthew came to your house to visit you, and as they were he was trying to get to know your mom and dad, and I know that there were even some standards they set to help protect you guys there, and so just chat with our audience about those a little bit.
Yeah, so my parents' house is a 2-level house. We have a basement, and my room and the guest room is in the basement, and their room is upstairs. And so they never had a problem with it at your guys' house because it was all one level.
Right.
But at our house, it was a little trickier. And one thing that my grandparents did that my mom did with all of us kids is your significant other cannot stay in the same house with you.
Right.
And especially at our house because there's new
Because it was
territory.
out of sight.
It was
so
out
there was
of
no
sight.
sense of always,
Right.
not the
Yeah.
case of being public.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so he would always have to stay with Tyler, my older brother, who was like 2 miles away. So it wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
And we provided him a car where he could come in the morning when people were awake. And that like standard like shifted a little bit because it was after we were engaged. There was a bad blizzard where we were, and my parents didn't want him driving. But my
It's probably because he was driving their car, right?
yes,
This Florida boy driving their car in a blizzard was time to alter the standard just a little bit.
no, but so they kind of changed it, and they were like, "You're engaged. We trust y'all." And my older brother was also in the basement, so there was accountability.
So they did let Matthew spend that night in the house
Yeah.
because of the snowstorms. It's practical as much
Yeah.
as anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a good lesson there, Mom and Dad, that we can have wisdom as we navigate these waters with our children.
Right.
Because sometimes our hard and fast standard has to be,
It has to line up with real life.
it does. It has to just be applied in real life.
Yes.
And that's a good reminder right there. Matt, let's jump to you for a moment. You look back, we've been doing a lot of teaching here. And so as you look back, we didn't have huge conversations where we said, this is what you must do. We just tried to live these principles day by day. But what sticks out to your mind? What did we do as you were a young man that's helped you to get to marriage? What sticks out in your mind?
Well, first off, I would say you guys taught me how to interact with the opposite gender just on a friends level basis and on a day-to-day basis without it being weird.
Right.
A lot of my college friends don't know how to act around the opposite gender in any way, shape, or form. It's weird. They don't know how to talk to a girl without it all of a sudden them worrying that the girl likes them or that there's all these rumors are going to be spread. But you guys really taught me how to just be okay with being around the opposite gender and treating them as an equal,
Right.
And as just a normal human being. And that was really the first step in me and Kareth was just getting to know each other, not feeling awkward around each other, but being able to get to know each other as just friendships and being in a good relationship before we take it to a romantic relationship.
Sure.
Good.
So you guys were friends first, obviously.
Yes,
And
friend first.
And one of the things that, if you remember, moms and dads, that we taught is that we really, really emphasize Christian college education in our family because it was an opportunity for our kids to begin the dating relationships in a controlled environment,
Yes.
meaning a protected environment. And that was just a step towards helping us. And what else, Matt, comes to your mind? I know we did try. That is true. We wanted you to get to know other girls. And one of the things I've said often along the years was be friends with all the girls. Be friends with all the girls.
Don't single just one of them
friends
out
with
until
all
you
the
get to
girls.
college, and then he took us up on that.
And then one of the
It's a good thing. We're
One
really
of the-
happy to have Kareth.
one of your brothers is like, does this mean I can have a girlfriend in every church? And the answer to that was no, you may not. But you can have girls that are friends in every church across the land in our meeting. So what else comes to your mind? So it was the helping you to interact with girls. What else? Anything else stick out to you?
Well, the other thing that really stuck out to us, or stuck out to me, was just in my words to Kareth and all of that. I know when we were dating, there was a few times Dad, said a few times where just watch what you're saying to her, make sure you're not pushing anything, make sure your words are classy, make sure your words aren't going to be steering you guys down a different route. And then even when we were in long distance dating, this is along the lines of keeping things public. Even when we were long distance on FaceTiming and all of that, you made sure that we weren't just FaceTiming at 2 a.m. by ourselves all the time. You made sure that you came and checked on me or whatever, and just to make sure it wasn't always private.
Right.
Sure. Was there ever a time you were like, oh my word, you're checking on me again?
Yes, there was a couple of times where me and Kareth were having a moment of disagreement or something.
Surely
Or,
not.
And it was
or-
like every family member came into that room, and and the tension kept rising.
It
Oh,
only,
dear, and you
it
couldn't
only
have your
happened whenever we
discussion.
were having
Oh,
a
dear.
discussion.
You know,
but
that's a difference
it
in
was
our
still all right.
generation because when Bethany and I dated, not having the FaceTime, all of our phone conversations long distance was voice to voice.
Right.
And the FaceTime puts a whole different level of interaction.
Yes, it does.
And it brings new things to have to deal with and
Yes,
discuss
and
and
you have
talk about.
siblings who come and stick their face in the camera so that
Say
they can be on
hi,
the screen
how are
and say
you?
hi. As I recall, maybe I'm wrong on this, but most of your FaceTiming was done just as we were about to head to bed because of the time difference from Florida to Colorado. We would be about heading to bed, but you would be in the living room. So Matt would be in a very public place. So it wasn't like he was off, by himself and behind a locked door. There was still a lot of accountability there as you were FaceTiming. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. And then one of the things you and I talked about earlier today was how that in your teen years, one of the things we emphasized was you learning to be a worker and to be prepared for that. You want to comment on that a little bit? Because we're
Yes.
talking about here how we helped you guys navigate the dating, which also prepared you for marriage.
Well, when we were growing up in high school, you guys would have us work a lot and even do things that I didn't necessarily like doing, like clean the house every single week, multiple times a week. But
Multiple times a week.
multiple
Well,
times a
every
week.
day we do have some things we do. Yes. Okay, go
But
ahead.
at least it taught me how to work, even if it was a job I did not necessarily like. It taught me to do things that, even though it was something that I really didn't enjoy, I was able to do it and do it well, which helped me when I even got to college and I had to do dishes for the first 2 years of my college career, and that's all I did was dishes. And it taught me how to work hard and to, even if it's something I really don't want to do, got to do it anyways. And that at least prepared me for
Sure.
marriage if there was something that I didn't really want to deal with it anyways. Because if it's not me getting it done, nobody's going to get it done.
Right. Well, even for instance, this week I asked you, what did you do today? And we're here at the church in the meeting, and Matt's been in every day doing the chores that he has as a youth pastor. And one of the days I asked him, what'd you do today? And he said, I cleaned the bathrooms today at the church. So
Yeah,
there
that's
we
all
go.
part of it.
All of that housework, just preparing you to clean bathrooms at New Life Baptist
And to
Church.
get paid for it. What a change. Yeah. That's a good deal. And, along those same lines then, Kareth, as you're hearing him talk about it, anything else coming from your youth that you think, my parents, because oftentimes in parenting, we have ideas of what we're doing that we're not necessarily saying, okay, here's the 10 things we're going to do, now let's do them. It's just as we walk through life, this is kind of the foundation as a parent that we have. And you look back at it and realize, wow, this is what my parents were doing that really helped. Anything else come to your mind?
Well, the same way how y'all did it. My parents always, they separated me and my brothers, because I am the only girl, but I had to work just as hard as the boys. Like, whatever they were doing, I had to be doing it too. And I didn't get an excuse because you're our baby girl. Like, my dad was like, no, you're going to go sweep out the horse stalls too. And so it just prepared me to, come alongside somebody too and to help and teamwork, because that's basically what a marriage is. It's just you two working together and getting it done. And so my parents never, I was spoiled, but I wasn't spoiled because they
I never look at you and think you're spoiled.
and my parents made me do the hard things too, and they made me clean and made me take care of things. And having a ton of animals, you would have to wake up early, go feed the animals.
Right.
And my dad always said the animals can't. You can't have your breakfast if the animals don't have their breakfast. So we had to go feed the animals first, take care of our responsibilities, and then come and eat our breakfast. So take care of everything else around you, and then take care of yourself.
And that's a wonderful character trait to learn for marriage and ministry.
Absolutely.
Others first.
Others, and
Yes.
you're always having to learn to. There's just times you just don't feel like it, but it's still, the animals
Yes.
have to be fed whether you feel like it or not.
And
They
the
have no other
teenagers
option.
will have to be fed whether you
Whether-
feel like it or not.
The bathrooms have to be cleaned, and
Yes.
there's a lot of work that goes into a church. And so, not only has this prepared you guys for ministry, it's also helped prepare you guys for marriage.
Yes.
And we're thinking about the fact of this second point we went through was about not dating alone. And we weren't weird about that in the sense that I didn't always sit in the back seat when you guys were on a date with a shotgun. But we also did make sure that everything we did, we tried to make sure it was public. So we would let you guys go out to eat, but you had to go in a car publicly to a place, go eat, and we had to know where you were and all of that kind of things.
Right.
And any ideas come to your mind about that? Any comments you'd have about was it positive to you, negative to you, something you thought, I'm glad now that this happened? On the don't date alone, take a chaperone idea. What would you say, Matthew?
Well, I was very thankful that we were allowed to at least get a little bit of quiet time.
Yeah.
Because my younger siblings do love Kareth a lot, which is awesome. But at the same time, sometimes if she was over at my house, I wouldn't get any time with her. And so it was nice that we could go out and get some quality time alone. But it also kind of taught us how to put our own standards into our life. Even though we are in a public place, we are alone technically. And it made sure that, we're being responsible ourselves, being responsible for our own standards and growing up in that way. And it helped us understand that a little bit more.
Sure. I know even the week of your guys' wedding, you had to go to, Kareth's family lives about, would it be 2 hours maybe, or an hour and a half?
An hour and a half.
To the Denver airport, and we had people flying in pretty late one night. And so Matt and Kareth did the airport run that evening, but just as in the week of their wedding, just as a safety measure. I don't know, your parents didn't really enforce that I know of, and we didn't make it a big deal. And it's because we didn't have to. You guys said, we're going to take Jake with us. And so even though you were going an hour and a half, and I think the first person you picked up was pretty early. It was before dinner, right?
Yeah.
And then one of your groomsmen flew in at midnight. So that's a pretty late night, plus an hour and a half then to drive home in a wedding week that's already filled with a lot of pressure and everything. But taking Jake with you was encouraging to us because it was just another way of your modeling what we wanted in the relationship.
Right, and
so that was
just a
great.
protection of your testimony, even just the week of your wedding, which probably the week of your wedding, no one would have thought anything about you two going to Denver for the day to pick up two wedding party people, from the airport. But I did appreciate it. I thought it was a great testimony
I thought
from
it was
both
really
of you.
great as well. And then the don't act wed till I do's are said. We only got a few more minutes here, but you that haven't heard our other podcasts on this need to, because we talk in the final point there that we believe that affection and affirmation and all that is a
Yes,
normal
it's
part
very
of
normal.
life.
Yes.
But you got to tie it in with the stay public, don't be private, don't be alone. But we did believe, you be careful because you're not yet married.
Yes.
And any comment you'd want to make about that as we look through those things, protecting yourself and making sure your relationship was above board to get you to the marriage altar with a pure heart and so forth? Any thought on that, Matthew?
Well, first off, it was very hard because me and Kareth are both extremely affectionate people.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
And we're both very, very touchy. We both feel and show love through touch. And so, especially at West Coast where there was very strict touch policies, very non-touch at all, it was hard. And there was times even at our home where when we didn't have as many rules, we still had to set up a few boundaries ourselves and be like, all right, well, we're starting to get a little too close here. And even my parents said that a few times, be like, all right, just make sure I know you're just very touchy and very passionate people and persons.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're being careful about it. Make sure it's not all the time. You don't always have to be touching her. You don't always have to be touching him. And so that would be a guideline you guys set up in our lives. Just even though we were affectionate, even though we were very passionately in love, you made sure we had some guidelines, but weren't weird about it. You didn't push it too hard.
Right.
Well, the heartbeat there was not that you met a legal standard,
Yeah.
but that you protected your heart and had wisdom there. And,
Right.
and I think you guys did that. Any comment you'd have on that, Kareth?
Yeah, I think what Matt said was perfect. And like, anytime we did like touch, it was always around somebody. And my family, your family, like
Right.
there was always somebody in the room or the next room. And so it never could get like out of hand. But my family is not, you shall not kiss him before marriage. Like, they're not like that. And so they weren't weird about it. They didn't make a big deal about it, but they were aware
Right.
of where we were and
Right.
everything.
Yes.
And so,
So our takeaways really, if we think about it, would be that just the normal course of life, you learning to treat, the opposite gender with grace and kindness and gentleness helped you towards dating. And also allowing you in your teen years to develop close relationships with guys and girls helped. And learning how to work was a help. And obviously you've been married a month and 2 days as we record this today. So how's it going? Are you still happily married?
oh, yes.
Extremely happily married.
Big smiles for all of you out there
Big,
in
big
listening
smiles.
land.
And Matt and Kareth, your mom and I are just so proud of you guys. And,
Yes, we are.
Just thrilled. And for you folks that were listening, we wanted to bring Matt and Kareth on just to, our older two are married as well. David and Abby are married, and Josh and Bethany are married.
Yes.
And just the joy, it doesn't mean we did everything right. And obviously what you're hearing here is that the way we did some things and the way Kareth's parents did some things would have been a little different here and there. Our heartbeat was the same. We wanted to protect our children. Don't play the dating solo game during their teen years and waste all that time. Use your teen years to prepare yourself for the marriage.
Right.
And to be careful, make sure you have standards in your life that prevent you from damaging things, hurting things, or even opening the door for that possibility.
Right.
And then also making sure that the wedding then is everything that it ought to be, and that is blessed by God and happy and joyful. And so Matt and Kareth are in that place where they're settling into a new house and a new ministry and even
Yes.
finishing some education.
Yes.
And a lot going on in their life right now. And so if you're ever through Odenville, Alabama, not too far from Birmingham, you ought to swing by New Life Baptist Church and meet our
Wonderful
Matt and our
ministry.
Kareth. And you'd
Yes.
just love the ministry.
And a wonderful couple.
Any further thoughts from you, my love, before we wind this up?
Oh, this has just been fun. I wish David and Abby and Josh and Bethany and Jake and Charity could join us too. Sometime maybe we'll have them on. But this has been fun.
We need to
It's
have
good.
Charity on because Charity keeps asking.
We know we're the favorites.
Oh, is that what it is?
Ah, is that what it is? Is that why
Yes.
we
You
started
had
with
us
you?
on first, so we're the favorites.
Shout out to Joshua and Abby.
Let's give them a good shout out there. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I sure hope this kids, dating, and marriage has been a help.
Yes.
And you can go to keepingityoungpodcast.com. To the right-hand corner, there's a little microphone there. Hit that microphone, and you can send us a message. You can email us. Give us a call. Come see us. Check out our internet, evangelistdaveyoung.com, and our itinerary.
Look at our schedule. We'd
And
love to meet
If we're
you.
nearby, please come to one of our meetings and say hello. We'd love to get to know you. We'd love to meet you. And thank you so much for joining us, Matt and Kareth. We're glad to
Yes.
have you on here today.
Thank you for
It's
having
our
us.
pleasure.
It was awesome.
All right. And until next week, may you have just a great week ahead. We'll see you later. God bless.
The Keeping It Young podcast is a Bax 5 Media production. All rights reserved.